Well, hello, fifth graders, as we're starting now to get here into chapter 2. And today we're talking about mathematical properties. Okay? And when we talk about these mathematical properties, we're first starting by talking about the associative property. Okay? And the associative property basically says if we think about PEMDAS and we think about the order of operations, uh, we talk about that what we do is we complete the operations inside the parentheses first. And what the associative property means basically is that it doesn't matter where you put the parentheses, that the two problems are going to equal the same thing. Okay? And in this particular problem, if I do 2 plus 7, which is 9, and then add 9, I get 18. Or if I come here and I do 7 plus 9 first, I get 16. And if I do 2 plus 16, that also equals 18. That works with both addition and multiplication. If we just have addition signs or we just have multiplication signs, we can have an associative property of addition, and we can have an associative property of multiplication. The same goes for the commutative property. The idea being is basically that without parentheses, without grouping things together, we can switch the order. Now this is going to be the same 2 numbers, 3 numbers, 4 numbers in the problem. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what order we put the numbers. If we're doing all addition, they're still going to equal the same. If we're doing all multiplication, they're still going to equal the same. So the example here is the idea that 273 times 9 equals the same thing as 9 times 273. And so once again, we could have a commutative property of multiplication. We can also have a commutative property of addition. We also have the addition and multiplication property of 0. Now these are rules that I know you know, okay? But you may not have realized that there's a name to them, okay? And so we have the addition property of 0, the idea being that 19 plus 0 equals 19. The basic idea of the addition property of 0 basically means if you take a number and you add nothing to it, it's going to equal whatever the number is that you originally had, such as 19 plus 0 equals 19. It can also state that if you have 0, okay, and then you add a number to it, like, say, 28, okay, it's going to equal whatever the number is you added to it, which in this case is 28. And the idea that 0 plus 28 equals 28. The multiplication property of 0 basically just states, as this is one of the first things you probably learned back in, third grade or whatever, when you started your multiplication tables. It's the idea that whenever you take a number and you multiply it by 0, it's going to equal 0. And so 29 times 0 equals 0. It doesn't matter whether the number whether the 0 comes first or it's something times 0, that just doesn't matter. Okay? And so it's here we have a number times 0 equals 0. Or if we started with 0 and did like 0 times 36, that would also equal 0. So it doesn't matter what order it comes in. The other one we want to talk about is the distributive property. All right, the distributive property basically works best when you have a one-digit number. I mean, it can work with multiple ways, but we're going to be basically working with a one-digit number times a two-digit number. And it's this idea of 4 times 89, where I can take the number 89 and I can break it up by place values. The idea that this 8 is in the tens place, and an 8 in the tens place is worth 80, so I'm going to think of 4 times 80, and then I'm adding to that, the 9 is in the ones place, so it's 4 times 9, 4 times 9. And I just kind of break this up. Essentially, the distributive property, in my mind, is just a way of showing you how to do mental math. do some long multiplication in a mental math way. All right, so I'm thinking here, okay, well, if I do 4 times 80, well, 4 times 8 is 32. Add the 1 0 using my zeros trick, I get 320. Well, we should know that 4 times 9 is 36. And then if I add 320 plus 36, I get 356. And so that's the distributive property, where the problem is distributed out. Okay? So what exactly are you going to need to do in on the actual assignment today? Okay? So first of all, the first set of directions tells us to complete the equation, identify the properties shown. Okay? So we want to think here, okay, 17 plus 29 equals 29 plus blank. Well, when I look at that, I'm thinking, well, it just looks like the numbers are being switched around, so I'm going to do 29 plus 17. And remember what we talked about with the commutative property, okay? The commutative property just means they're being switched. That with addition and multiplication, okay, it doesn't matter what order the numbers come in, they're still going to equal the same thing if we do it correctly. So I would call this the commutative property of addition. And I have to say of addition. I can't just say commutative property. You're fifth graders now, so you got to be very clear, very succinct, commutative property of addition. So here I have something that looks a little different. I have 7 times 30 minus 4 in parentheses, and we're saying, well, that equals 7 times 30 in parentheses minus 7 times something else in parentheses. Well, if I look at this, I should be able to kind of figure this out. I see that 7 times 30, I'm going to do that. But then I'm subtracting something, which I get my subtraction sign from there. And then logically, it's going to be 7 times 4, because I'm subtracting whatever 7 times 4 is, because this has me doing 7 times 30, and it has me subtracting from that whatever 7 times 4 is. Okay, so this would actually fill in with a 4. Now, once again, what property is this? Well, this is going to be the distributive property, because I'm taking the problem and I'm distributing it out. Okay, I'm spreading it out. That's the distributive property. All right, well, let's talk more specifically about the distributive property, because there's going to be one set of directions that tells you to use the distributive property to find the product. Okay, and so the product is the answer to a multiplication problem. Okay, and so we have 76 times 4. Okay, 76 times 4. I'm going to break this up as, that's my one-digit number 4. So I'm going to do 4 times, that 7 is in the tens place. A 7 in the tens place is 70. So I'm going to think 4 times 70. I'm going to put that in parentheses. And I'm going to add to that 4 times 6, because my 6 is in the ones place. So I'm going to think 4 times 6. Then I can use the zeros trick for 4 times 70. Well, 4 times 7 is 28. Add the 0. I get 280. Then I'm going to add to that 4 times 6. 4 times 6 is 24. Okay, then if I go ahead, some of you might be able to add that mental math, but go ahead and do some scratch work if you're not sure. 0 plus 4 is 4. 8 plus 2 is 10. Put the 0 down, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. And I get 304. Okay? All right? So, when I do 8 times 83, it doesn't matter whether the single digit comes first or whatever. The 8 is in the tens place. A value of an 8 in the tens place is 80. So I'm going to start this with 8 times 80. All right? And then 8 times 80, and then it's a 3 in the ones place. Okay? So I'm thinking 8 times 3. So I'm going to add 8 times 3. Once again, use the zeros trick. 8 times 8 is 64. Add the 0, put it in there. 8 times 3 is 24, so plus 24. So I have 640 plus 24. I go ahead and add those. 640 plus 24. 0 plus 4 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 and nothing is 6. I get 664. So that's the distributive property. Now, the other part of what you're going to need to do is they're going to be giving you some problems, okay? And they're going to ask you to solve them and identify what property you used, okay? So, for example, let's say that I have 7 times 89. You got to use a property. So we're going to think, well, okay, the associative or the commutative properties don't make any sense. Addition or property of 0, multiplication property of 0 doesn't make sense. So I would probably use the distributive property because I have to show the work with one of these properties. So I'm thinking distributive property when I get a problem like this. So once again, in 8 in the tens place, that's going to be 80. So this is going to start with 7 times 80. I'm going to have a 9 in the ones place. So that's going to be, we're going to be adding to that 7 times 9. I use the zeros trick. 7 times 8 is 56. Add the 0, put that in. 7 times 9, well, I should know that that's 63. And then that leaves me with 560 plus 63. And I just go ahead and add those, okay? 0 plus 3 is 3. 6 plus 6 is 12. Put the 2 down, carry the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. 623. Okay? So, moving right along. Now, let's say we get something that looks like this, okay? Look at a different property. 372 plus 0 plus 69. All right, well, so once again, let me go back to this one. I apologize. You also need to write down the name of the property. So this would be the distributive property, okay? 372 plus 0 equals 69. Well, think about this. We're adding. We've got a 0 here, and we should be able to figure out, well, all I have to do is 372 plus 69. That's all I should have to do there because that 0 has no value. It doesn't change the addition. So this one would definitely be your 0 property of addition. And then I would just go and do 372 plus 69. Well, 2 plus 9 is 1, or 2 plus 9 is 11, so I'm going to put the 1 down, carry the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 6 is 14, so I put the 4 down, carry the 1. Then 1 plus 3 is 4. I get 441. All right, so let's just say I get one more. Let's say 25 times 9 times 3. All right, well, so thinking about this, probably thinking that, once again, that probably what I want to do is think, well, what two numbers can I easily put together? Well, as fifth graders, we should be able to count quarters, okay? So always think about the numbers, 25 cents and a quarter. Well, if I have 3 quarters, okay, 1 quarter is 25 cents, 2 quarters makes 50 cents, 3 quarters makes 75 cents, 4 quarters makes $1. As a fifth grader, that's something we should all know. Okay? So I should be able to think mental math. Well, 25 times 3 then, since 3 quarters makes 75 cents, okay, that 25 times 3 is 75. That just leaves me with 75 times 9. Because once again, it does not matter what order I multiply these numbers. Okay? It does not matter what order I do it in. Okay? As long as I do it right, we're still going to get the same answer. So one of the possibilities is to do 75 times 9. This is always my best way for me personally, because I like to make it easier just with one-digit numbers. Okay, the other possibility is that most of us probably know, well, 9 times 3 is 27. That's not hard. So I could just go and do 25 times 27. And just to prove to you, 9 times 5 is 45. Put the 5 down, carry the 4. 9 times 7 is 63, plus 4 is 67. I get 675. So I come over to this one. Well, 7 times 5 is 35. Put the 5 down, carry the 3. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 3 is 17. Put the 0 down so it all lines up with my 2. 2 times 5 is 10. Put the 0 down, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. I go ahead and add these. 5 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 0 is 7. 1 plus 5 is 6. I get 675 there, 675 here. The other part of what you're going to have to do on this assignment, and we're not really going to do any examples, I'm just going to kind of talk to you about it, is this idea of I'm going to give you things that look like this, and you're not going to have to fill in the blank. You're not going to have to solve anything, okay? It's just going to be examples that look like that, and you're going to need to write down what property I'm trying to demonstrate, okay? So if we're here changing how things are grouped with parentheses, we're talking about the associative property of either multiplication or addition. And you need to be very specific. If it's supposed to be of multiplication, you need to write of multiplication. If it's supposed to be of addition, you need to write of addition. Same with commutative property. If there's no parentheses involved and we're just switching the order that the numbers are in, that's going to be the commutative property of either addition or multiplication. Okay? If we're doing addition property of 0, this idea that if we add 0 to something, we get the same number, or if we add something to 0, we get whatever we added, that's going to be the addition property of 0. If we get this idea that we take a number times 0 equals 0, or take 0 times a number, we still get 0, that's going to be the multiplication property of 0. All right, not expecting a whole lot of problems here on these mathematical properties. All right, have a good day, 5th grade. Bye.